Hear me out. I'd love to see Noah Thomas go for 100 yards when Texas A&M faces off with Mississippi State.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So, ladies and gentlemen, today's the day we're going to talk about some keys to victory for the Aggies over the Mississippi State Bulldogs. And the first, to me, many of these are full-fledged keys to victory. I feel like you got to do these to win the game. But the one I'm going to lead the show off with that I don't necessarily believe will lose the game for you if it doesn't happen. But gosh, I would love to see Noah Thomas go for 100 yards in this game. I think Noah Thomas is beginning to separate himself as the dude, the guy in this offense when it comes to the wide receivers. He's had a couple good games in a row. He's open and he looks good. And you want Conner Weigman to have a receiver that he's going to be able to go to on a game-to-game basis. And I'll just tell you this. I'm just such a believer in having an alpha wide receiver. I just feel like if you have multiple guys, well, Cyrus Allen had led us with 52 yards in this game. Terry Bussey led us with 81 yards. Well, Jabri Barber led us with 56 yards. There's going to be games where somebody is the main guy. You know what I mean? I mean, you look, there's games like for Missouri where Theo Weiss is the guy instead of Luther Burden, or for LSU where somebody else is the guy instead of Lacey. This stuff happens. And so it's fine when that happens, but you would love to see Noah Thomas really take over in the future down the road as the guy for Texas A&M, because I think we've gotten to the point in this season where he just looks like the best receiver on this team when you watch him play. And we talked about stacking good games. He had, a 60-yard game. He had a 100-yard game. He scored in the last few weeks. He's doing things well, and he's getting open. And he looks to be Conner Weigman's guy. And Conner Weigman talked about this in the offseason. He said, hey, Noah Thomas and I were banged up a lot last year. We spent a lot of time doing rehab stuff together, strengthening our connection, our wide receiver quarterback bond. And you would love to see that continue to grow throughout the season, and you would love to see Noah Thomas have another huge game against Mississippi State. And I've talked about it. We'll get to my next key to victory in a minute, which also includes the passing game. I have a feeling this is a game where I'd like to see Texas A&M. And when I say air it out, I'm not saying throw it 42 times, but if they threw it 20, near 30 instead of 23, 24, I wouldn't be surprised. Knowing Mississippi State likes to, and this is another discussion we've had throughout the week, Mississippi State's had some games where they've run the ball 50 times. They've had some games where they pass the ball a bunch. Some of it's game script based, but some of it's, I think that Mississippi State wants to be able to beat you in multiple ways. But I think that the way that Mississippi State wants to beat you that could genuinely hurt the Aggies is pushing the ball downfield in the passing game. And if it starts turning into that, and maybe they're landing some deep throws and scoring some points, that's when you're going to need to see Noah Thomas and this passing attack getting some things done on offense. So I think Noah Thomas is going to have a good game on Saturday. I think he's going to play well. And that kind of leads us into my next key to victory, which is Conner Weigman throwing for 250 plus. We talked about stacking performances, is more so with Weigman than Noah Thomas. Weigman's coming back from the injury, a great game against Missouri, one of the better games he's played. Obviously, touchdowns weren't there, but everything else was there. And at the end of the day, when your running backs are scoring them, who cares? No, Conner Weigman doesn't care who's scoring them. He just cares that they're scoring them. So we've talked about Conner Weigman and why I think the offense is best with him at quarterback for the rest of the season. And I do believe that is the reality here. But at the same time, overreactions are a real thing. I think that myself and everyone overreacted to his poor play against Notre Dame. No question there. And now we got to make sure, okay, hey, we aren't overreacting to the great game he put together against Missouri. So you'd love to see Conner Weigman go for 250 plus. In all honesty, I'd love to see him go for 300, but it's going to be a game script thing. I mean, if you get up 21-0 and midway through the second quarter, I don't think you're going to – and Weigman's only thrown it 13 times in that span. I don't think you're going to see him get to more than 25 passing attempts. And it's really hard. I mean, you've got to average. Let's do some quick maths here. To average 300 yards on 25 passing attempts, you got to go for about 12 yards of pass play. I mean, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. So I think what we need to see is Conner Weigman. So at the end of the day, I'm not as concerned about yardage as I am with how good Conner Weigman looks. I care more about the eye test right now than I care about, he threw for 250. I mean, he can throw for 250 and look bad. I don't care if he throws for 185. If he looks good doing it and the Aggies win, that's all I care about. So, that's what I'm more paying attention to is, okay, you have an open receiver, put it on the numbers. You have a go ball to somebody. Maybe it's going to get broken up, but put the ball where it needs to be. That's what I want to see because once again, Mississippi State compared to what you have left on the schedule is probably the worst team aside from obviously New Mexico State. So that's what you want to see here is Conner Weigman just prove, regardless of what the game script with the numbers say, prove, hey, I'm the guy. I looked really, really good in this game. Maybe the numbers weren't great because we didn't throw it a ton, but I had a good completion percentage and I hit my open guys. I threw some guys open. I made good plays, made smart decisions, took care of the football. If he does that, I don't care if he has 170 yards. I don't care if he has 370 yards. That's what I really want to see. But I would love to see, knowing the game coming up next week and how important that one is, I would absolutely love to see Conner Weigman have a really big game. So I am fired up to see how he and this passing attack comes out against Mississippi State because we're now to the point in the season where this could be a very, very special 2024 football season for Texas A&M. I mean, it really could be a special year. So what I want to see is proof that that's sustainable and that's going to happen. We know the games you have left on the schedule. You still got trips to South Carolina. You got trips to Auburn. You got a trip to Mississippi State, obviously coming up this week. Then you've got your tough home games against I about said Mississippi State against LSU. Excuse me, against LSU and Texas. So you've still got some challenging parts of the schedule left. And I would absolutely love to see this passing attack prove, hey, we're going to be able to do this on a game-to-game basis. Now, my next key to victory has to do with Le'Veon Moss. I mean, so we're talking a little bit about offense here. We're going to get to some defense in a minute. But, all of these things can be true. Noah Thomas could have 100 receiving yards. Conner Weigman could go for 250. And Le'Veon Moss could go for 100 plus. In all honesty, knowing how much they run the football, how well this offensive line has been blocking in the run game, and how many carries Le'Veon Moss is getting, it's going to get to the point where it's going to get a little bit surprising when he isn't over 100 yards or right around it or over 90 yards and when he's right in that area because he's just looked so dominant. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, at the end of the day, you could really make the argument that Le'Veon Moss has been the best running back in the SEC this season. So I would absolutely love to see Le'Veon Moss go for 100 yards in this game. And just proof of concept is the term that I think matters a lot. I want to see these Texas A&M, this offensive line, receivers, tight ends, running backs, Conner Weigman. I want to see this offense continue to prove day in and day out that they're really, really good. So that is something we've got to be able to see, and you need to prove it. I mean, once again, you can't have a good game. You can't be if you want to make a playoff appearance, you can't be an up and down team. You can't. Well, the offense was great against Missouri, but then we were really bad against Mississippi State. We found a way to win, but it was ugly. You need to just, if you're a playoff team, you got to play like it. And that's kind of the point I'm getting to here. And I think to be a playoff team, you need to see Conner Weigman have a good game through the air pretty much every single game. And you need to see Le'Veon Moss have a great game where he goes for 100. So I'd love to see Le'Veon Moss go for 100 yards in this football game. We've got a lot more keys. What you got to hold Van Buren to, avoid some chunk plays. We've got a lot more keys to victory for Texas A&M over Mississippi State. And we'll run through all those coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Ladies and gentlemen, y'all every day are here Locked On Aggies know what day it is for me. It's the day that me and my buddies go to restaurants called Banners. We go every Thursday, and we always bet on the first touchdown score, and we have been really dialed. This is an ugly football game tonight. You got the Saints with Rattler. You got the Broncos with Bo Nix. It's going to be a weird one, but it's really a fun one. Whenever you can bet on FanDuel on a football game, it's going to be fun. Go check them out at FanDuel.com. So my next key to victory here is you got to score 28 points. This is a football game to me. I'll be honest with y'all, and I've said this throughout the week. I just have a weird kind of feeling about this football game. And this is not a feeling that Texas A&M is going to lose, because I do not believe they're going to lose. I think they're going to win this game. But I think it could end up being a little bit closer and a little bit more interesting than many anticipate. So that's kind of my point here is I think this game could be a tight one. It could be an interesting one. Just because, it's hard. You come off a huge win. You got your bye week. Now you got to get hyped back up for a Mississippi State team that lost at home to Toledo. And then you know what's coming up next week, which, as I've said, I think is the most important game on the schedule for Texas A&M. So I think it's going to be a weird one. But I think that 28-plus points is going to win it. I just think I don't see Mississippi State scoring more than 21 points. So if your offense is able to score 28-plus, or I don't care who scores. It could be a kickoff return, a punt return, a pick six, a fumble rumble. I don't care how you do it. But I think you got to score 28-plus points. And I'll be honest, I don't think the Aggies are going to have a ton of trouble doing that. I think that they're going to be able to move the football. I think they're going to score points. In all honesty, I think the key is going to be stopping Mississippi State, because they've proven they can score points, whether in garbage time, whether in regular parts of the game. They can score some points. So this is a game where you want to score 28 plus, and I think you're going to win. This is a football game, once again, to me, that I don't care what the score is here. This is one of those, I don't care if it's ugly. I don't care if you win 3-0. I don't care if you win 28-27. I don't care if you win 42-41. I don't care. Win this game. Your season outlook goes from we could do something incredibly special to, oh darn, here we go. Just like that if you lose this game to Mississippi State. So I think that 28 points is going to be what will make or break this game. I think you got to get to that spot, because I could see Mississippi State putting up 21 points. So I think that, once again, obviously 24 in that case would win it, but just score 42. Seriously, I don't care how many I think you need to score more than 28 to really guarantee you're going to win this football game. The next thing I have here, which we won't spend a ton of time on because it was a good portion of our show yesterday on Locked On Aggies, but it was the secondary needs to hold up. Van Buren is going to try and get the ball in the field. So we'll wrap all these into one. I've said that I think you want to hold Van Buren for sure under 250. You'd love to hold him under 200. And then avoid chunk play. So we'll wrap all these three keys to victory into one. The secondary's been good so far this season. Knowing that was a question mark, knowing that was a concern heading into the season, you really love to see that this secondary has been solid. But I think that's how Mississippi State's going to try and beat you in this game. And they've proven, and Coach Elko talked about it, they have their downfield passing threat is a little bit scary. I mean, it really is. It's a little bit scary. And I think you need to see Texas A&M find a way to kind of slow this passing attack. And maybe if they try and kill you with 1,000 cuts, okay, whatever. What you have to avoid without question is those chunk plays. I mean, if you look back and they have a 70-yard touchdown and a 50-yard gain that sets up a field goal and then a 62-yard passing play that sets up first and goal from the 3 and they score on the ground or something, that is going to be how Mississippi State beats you. If you let them get a ton of chunk plays in the passing game, you can't let them do that. You can't let them get all these chunk plays. If you let them get these chunk plays, this game's going to be really tight is what I'll say. I don't know if I'm going to fully say, well, you're going to lose, but if they have 3 or 4 50-plus yard plays in the passing game or in the run game, I don't care where they come, you're in trouble. So you need to limit the big plays in this football game because big plays are what give underdogs, especially at home, hope. You got to avoid them. You got to not let that happen. The next thing I have here is I'd love to see this defensive, and I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's safety, a corner, a linebacker, a defensive lineman. I'd love 3+ sacks in this game. Just like we saw last year, Texas A&M is starting to pick it up when it comes to the sack department. This happened last year. After the first few games of the season, we went, the Aggies don't have a ton of sacks. They don't have as many as I kind of imagined. And then they picked it up, and you're kind of starting to see that a little bit. Would love to see this defense get 3+ sacks in this game because, that's what's going to really kill this Mississippi State offense is if you really push them behind the chains, or if you get a couple big third down sacks where it's 3rd and 8 and Van Buren has to drop back in the pocket and you take him to the ground, that would be really ideal. So that is what I'm paying attention to here. I would love to see 3+ sacks in this football game for the Aggies. The next thing I have here, and this is one that y'all know is a key to victory for me always, but it is a real key to victory when you're playing a good team, like a ranked team at home or away, or a road game that kind of has a weird feeling. And so to me, that one is you got to score touchdowns and not field goals. Field goals don't win football games. They just don't. They win football games when you're tied late in the game or when you're down a point or two late in the game. But early in the game, field goals won't get the job done. Now, there's a lot of situations where you'll take the points, of course, especially with how good of a defense you have. But, I mean, when we talk about this game, it feels like a bit of a trap. You need to be careful. You need to play good ball in this game. Knowing all of that is true, Texas A&M needs to find a way to only be sending Randy out there for a point after. You don't want to see a lot of field goals. And something we talked about, I believe it was on Friday, but maybe it was Monday. But Coach Klein has been really good so far in the red zone. It was something we talked about last season with him. He was great. His offense was great last year at Kansas State when it came to scoring touchdowns, not field goals in the red zone. You want to see that continue in this game, and I believe it will. The next thing I have here, and it is my cliche one, but it seriously does matter all the time, and that's turnover margin. Talk about playing an underdog on the road, or you're a road favorite. You got a home underdog. The big turnover sometimes can make a difference in a football game. You cannot give up the pick six. You cannot muff a fumble and give them 1st and 10 from your 17. Or muff a punt. I mean, I think I said muff a fumble, which is funny. But you can't do it because, once again, that is a recipe to losing a football game is getting the big turnover. You can't let the big turnover be your turnover. You need to let the big turnover be the turnover that takes your lead from 10-0 to 17-0 because you get a pick six or you get a fumble and you go score a touchdown. That's what you need. So winning the turnover margin, winning the turnover battle in this game, Texas A&M has, knock on wood, as Coach Elko did on the stand on the podium the other day when talking about this, turnover margin and winning turnover battle is huge. Texas A&M has done a really good job of that so far this season. You want to see that trend continue when they face off with Mississippi State. The last thing I have when it comes to keys to victory is get an early lead. And that was one of my keys to victory against Missouri, was get out there and get a quick lead on these guys. Get out there and make this stressful for them really, really quick and go up 14-0 in the first quarter. Go up 10-0 in the first quarter. Punch them in the mouth early. You did it against Missouri, and what happened? Missouri never bounced back from it. Once we heard the whole, it's pass interference, whatever. Missouri, and you went and scored and then just started burying them. Missouri never looked like they were going to make a run in that football game. So do the same thing to Mississippi State. Maybe the players are hearing, well, be careful in this game. You never know. Okay, if you're hearing that, then go out early and absolutely finish things quickly into this football game. Make it – I want to turn this game off, which obviously I cannot do that, but I'd like to turn it off at halftime. You know what I mean? Make it one of those kind of games. Which, in all honesty, the games where you could turn it off at halftime are always my favorite to watch because you get to watch your team just kill the other team. Love that. But so those are the keys to victory for Texas A&M over Mississippi State. One thing before we move to segment 3, I'm going to do a little mailbag segment tomorrow. So leave some questions in the YouTube comment section, and we'll answer your questions on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you a little bit about hymns. Guys, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and we always want to be ready so we can perform in the bedroom. Hims provides access to treatments that can help you stay hard and last longer, giving you that boost of confidence so you can be ready for whenever the mood strikes. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis, and the stuff in generous seats for up to 95% cheaper. So you're going to get great prices on all of these items. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable, compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with the healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price values based on product and subscription plan. So, injury report comes out. Right now, the only injury you're really looking at is one that I kind of hate, knowing how well this guy played against Missouri, but that's going to be Terry Bussey. He's questionable, which means 50-50. So it sounds to me, I like hearing questionable because that means, let's say he misses this game, you should have him back for LSU, and that's if he misses. So we'll see. I mean, 50-50 is 50-50. I don't know if he's going to be out there or not, but I believe if he's 50-50 this week that you're going to have him out there against LSU if he isn't good to go in this football game. And then the last injury you really have here, besides the ones that we obviously already knew about, but is Jalen Henderson's doubtful in this game. Hopefully, as it's funny because I think Jalen Henderson's a great quarterback, but hopefully you're not in a position where you need him. If you ever did need him, he's a really great third-string quarterback, probably maybe the best in college football. But you don't want to be in a position where you're having to go to your third string. So I don't think you're going to be, knock on wood once again, but Henderson is doubtful in this game, and doubtful means probably ain't going to be out there. So you need Weigman and Marcel Reed to stay healthy in this football game. But I mean, if you really think about it, not many nicks and bruises on this team right now. I mean, that is just a couple, now an important player in Bussey, but I think that you've come out of this bye week, and in all honesty, you're just at a point in the season where you're really healthy, and I think it's a great thing. I think Texas A&M is healthy, And that matters. You're getting to the point in the season where you expect to look at this injury report and there's 15 names on it. And I mean, so knowing that you are able to look at this injury report, like let's look at this. You look at Mississippi State's list, right? They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players on their report. All Texas A&M has is Reuben Owens, Tyreek Chappelle, Mark Naboo Jr., who we obviously knew were already out, and then Henderson, who's doubtful, and Barry Bussey, who's questionable. So you really love to see that your team is pretty healthy at this point in the season. Need to keep that up because you need all these excellent players out on the field as we get deeper into the season. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you all so much for being here every single day. Really, really appreciate it. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, helps the show a ton. If you're listening on a podcast platform, leave 5 stars. Another thing that really helps me out, helps the show out. Like I said, tomorrow we're going to do some mailbags. So if you haven't, leave a mailbag question in the YouTube comments, and we will discuss it on the show tomorrow. Hope everyone has a great rest of their Thursday. Enjoy the Thursday night football game, and we will see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.